Welcome to Truth Talks. I'm Torre. Here we keep it unapologetically black and completely unfiltered. Today we're diving headfirst into the truth the mainstream media is too scared to touch. We keep it real on Truth Talks. Why are black voters walking away from the Democratic Party? That's what we want to talk about. Is it betrayal? Is it about broken promises? Is it about Trump doing what he really says he's going to do? There's really important issues to talk about here. Have we outgrown the political gaslighting of clapbacks and talking about policies that aren't going to happen? Stay locked in because it's about to get real here on Truth Talks. We're going to make it uncomfortable for certain people who aren't listening to us. From the tears of joy we cried when Obama took office to the disillusionment of Kamala's loss, we are unpacking why the black community is leaving the Democratic Party. Let's get into it. It's Truth Talks. Let's go.
Are y'all ready to roll? Let's go.
Welcome, y'all. It's Truth Talks. Once again, I'm with two of my favorite people, and Dimitri Wiley. How are you, Dimitri?
I'm blessed by our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I'm good.
You sure are. Judge Lauren Lake is here.
Yes, happy to be here. And so is this hair. It's doing a lot right here. Okay. Come on, girl.
Sexy and white.
Dr. Cheyenne Bryant in the house. How are you, my sister?
Listen, besides loving my sis Judge Lauren's hair, because that thing is sexy and wild, I am excited and cannot wait to get into these topics tonight. We're talking about all kinds of stuff, Torre. Some of these things have me really pissed off, but I'm going to attempt to not be the statistical angry black doc on True Talks.
Okay, tonight on Trending Truths, a really disturbing story coming out of New York. Fat Joe sued by his hype man. It's shaking the hip hop world to its core. This story. Fat Joe's been a respected figure in the hip hop culture for quite a long time, at least 20 some years. He's facing a $20 million lawsuit from his former hype man of 16 years. The allegations here are absolutely explosive. Let's take a look at this video.
In Dixon's complaint submitted to court June 19th, he accused Cartagena of exploiting him sexually and financially during his 16-year employment. Dixon alleged Cartagena forced him to perform more than 4,000 sexual acts to maintain his standing in the company, saying in the suit that the alleged stunts were designed to degrade and exert control under the guise of loyalty tests. The lawsuit reads, "Sexual acts were induced not by choice, but by fear, dependency, and fraud. Each encounter carried an unspoken message: refuse and you lose everything." In one alleged instance, the complaint said Dixon's travel plans were abruptly canceled and he was stranded in a foreign country without any money after refusing to participate in a sex act. Fearing financial punishment, professional sabotage, and physical retaliation, the complaint said Dixon often complied with Cartagena's alleged demands, including unpaid labor in songwriting, tour management, and security. During his employment, Dixon alleged that he also witnessed Cartagena engage in sexual relations with children who were 15 and 16 years old. Dixon is seeking up to $20 million in damages for unpaid performance wages, lost per diem, stolen publishing revenue, unpaid royalties, and physical and emotional injuries, according to the lawsuit. However, Cartagena's attorney, Joe Tacopina, tells E! News that Dixon's suit is a desperate attempt to deflect attention from a civil complaint the MC filed in April, accusing Dixon and his lawyer, Tyrone Blackburn, of extortion and slander. Tacopina says, "We didn't just sue a disgruntled former employee trying to revive a false claim from 15 years ago. We sued the lawyer behind it all. We have taken legal action to expose this fraudulent campaign and hold everyone involved accountable."
So disturbing allegations talking about Joe dating and giving money to 15 and 16-year-old girls. 3 specific young girls are mentioned in the complaint. Also, Joe coercing allegedly his hype man into over 4,000 live sex acts where he's having sex with women in front of Joe and others. Joe allegedly orchestrating and recording these events. Lauren, this happens over a 16-year stretch of this man's employment under Joe. And similar to the Diddy case, I think a lot of folks would say, why did he stay? And can he say, you mistreated me over a period of years, without accounting for, why didn't you just leave?
I mean, that's the question everybody asks. And I think we're at a place now, and look, I've asked, let me be honest, but I think we're at a place now, and I'm reading a lot of these accounts, and I'm saying to myself, what is all this nastiness? I mean, even if it's true, I mean, we don't know, it's all alleged, but my Lord, I mean, we're looking at individuals that could pretty much have a relationship with whomever they want to have it with. What is this sex ring thing? Now, in this suit, he's alleging that there was coercive labor and exploitation and sexual manipulation. It's very similar to some of the testimony we're listening to in the Diddy case, where it becomes, you do these things that satisfy my sexual desires, needs, and urges, and then in return, you get to keep your job, you get to keep your lifestyle, you get to make your money. If you don't, you're out. Right. Why? Why is it at that point for this many years, you do something you don't want to do? It does feel retaliatory in nature. However, that doesn't mean a harm wasn't suffered, right? It can be a retaliation. But if for some reason these things did happen and it caused a harm and a judge or jury sees it that way, they will be able to collect. I mean, we just saw the same thing with Cassie's lawsuit. Now, he ain't trying to get to no judge and jury. This seems clear to me. We're just trying to get a settlement, right? We're putting this out here. We're laying down these facts, all of these alleged sexual encounters, these things that are happening. We don't know if they're true, but I'll tell you what, if so, there's about 4,000 women or young girls that might jump on this train if it gets some traction to be like, I need some money too. But it's just, I can't get past the unnecessary nastiness of it all.
Dimitri, can you imagine a situation where, not you, because you have character and you'd be like, no, I'm not doing that shit. I have my son. I got to be able to look Torre in the face. But it's not you. But like people being like, the boss who's paying me wants me to do wild things and I want to be down. I don't want to do the things. You know, there's a coercion that's happening, but then you're putting up with it for 16 years. It's like, well, what? So it's, I'm trying to weigh both sides. Can you see how that happen? Yeah,
to a degree, I would even take it as far as saying, it's not that you just put up with it. You were co-conspirators, sir. You were here. Like, you're part of these problems. Like, you watched this. You didn't call the police. You said, I know there's illegal activity happening, and I'm okay with it. Why? Because my check clears. And he cool. As long as the money there, as long as, you know, he can still afford his lifestyle. And that's where it comes in. That's where the threat comes in. Like, I know Judge asks why all the nastiness, but there is no greater demonstration of power man to man than demasculating a man. So people looking at it and they're like, this is what I could do. Money can afford me this luxury, and that's what they do. That's why you're seeing it pop up so often. And for me, I'm kind of used to this now. Like, once you pull the curtain back and I've seen this shit and you see what power does, I wouldn't say it's not true. I'm not saying he's not innocent. I ain't picking a side. All I'm saying is, if you are innocent, let it air out. Let the truth air out.
Doc, you know, I think Dimitri's being a little cynical. I think that this person can be a victim that can be coerced over and over and over. And it's not just, I want the money, the check clear. Like, you could have horrible things happen to you and understand, like, I'm kind of trapped here. I can't just easily, I don't think we can just walk away in every situation. What do you think?
Totally. So I don't condone abuse. I do not condone having any type of interaction whatsoever with a minor.
Right.
In addition to that, we got to look at the fact that there is a pattern here. There's a pattern of people who are now victims, but initially they came into relationships with a payoff and a desire of what they wanted. They came in with, I either want a record deal, I either want to be a part of a celebrity status, an entertainment world, a TV show, whatever that looks like. And then in exchange for that, the person that they want it from is saying, okay, well, I want you to do these things. And instead of them saying, well, I do want what I want, but not at the expense of those things, not at the expense of being violated, they seem to be participating in what they are now saying violated them with the intent of getting what they wanted. But if we look at the pattern, the folks who are crying victim now, or they are victims, however you want to take it, are also the people who did not seem to receive their desire or their call of action after they decided to participate in what the giver said you got to give in order for me to give you what you want. And that's where I'm seeing an issue with. I'm going, okay, I get it. Jury and judge, not you, Judge Law. I'm talking about jury and judge in the courtroom with these cases. Yeah, prosecute the damn crime. But jury and judge, are you seeing the fact that these folks came in here wanting to pay to play? Wanting to say, if hold on, I'll play if you can pay or give me this.
But
and
Doc,
now they're saying they're victims. And again, abuse is still abuse. I 100% on that. But come on now.
But Doc, the issue to me is not you said yes. It's that powerful person offered you a horrible choice. If you want to sing because you're a good singer or produce whatever it is, hype man, you can do that if you do this thing for me. That's illegal and immoral, but you got to prove yourself to me. I don't think that it's okay for the powerful people to be offering that choice. That is the problem. That's where the problem, not that you said yes to it. You shouldn't be manipulating me that way.
Yeah, so I don't think it's okay for them to offer that to minors. Absolutely not. But
not to adults. It's illegal. You cannot offer it to adults.
We're going to talk about accountability. As an adult, once I say, Torre, I want a record deal, and you say, Doc, then I need some pussy. Guess what I'm supposed to say at that point in time? Torre, I ain't giving you no pussy. I'm not willing to do that.
Yes, but Lauren, before she answers the question, I have already committed a crime, right?
That's right. It's the quid pro quo connected to the power dynamic of employer-employee that already is the legally problematic thing. And it's done then. This is what I just had this light bulb when Dr. B was talking, because I was saying, you know, as I'm thinking about this word coercive labor, and I thought she's so right. But there's nothing wrong with coming into an organization saying, I'd love to have a record deal. And I think what we're missing is a part of the coerciveness is the stringing along that one day you're going to get the record deal. One day you're going to have that moment that I know you want. I know you want this, but in order to get this, you get me. Because I've been thinking about this a lot as we're studying the Diddy case too, and then it aligns with this here. There is nothing wrong with having a dream. But then there's this normalization of like, well, if you don't want to do this, then you're not going to get to your dream. And it's always, and everybody else is doing it. And these people are doing it. It becomes this culture that if you're not willing to be loyal in this, and you just heard as a young gentleman just testify in the Diddy case about why would he do this, this, and this, one word, loyalty. That's the power dynamic that we're seeing come up over and over again. When you hear that word loyalty, when you hear that to be able to be down, that's the problem. Last point. So if you're trying to get to, D, you're going from A to D. I want to be a rapper. I want to be an artist. But people are telling you, listen, you got to do B and C to get to D now. And they consistently leave you on B and C, right? You're like a puppet. And they know good and well you're never getting to D, right? Mm-hmm. There is manipulation in that. I think even the person who's trying to get to their dream, they don't realize it till it clicks, right?
But when do they take their ass off of B&C,
But just hear me out. There's a moment that they all realize, like, oh, like he did when he got left in that foreign country. It was, oh, I'm probably really not his boy. I'm really not his brother. I'm really not this. And now they're realizing it. When the women realize in the Diddy case, oh, shoot, he done the same thing with the last girl. That sounds just like my life. Oh, now I have a light bulb. It doesn't make them right because they didn't have the strength to say, no, I'm not doing it.
Exactly.
It was the reality that they thought that they were still going towards their path, and a person in power was purposefully keeping them on a treadmill that they knew they were on, and the other person didn't know they were on.
Just because he said yes to the immoral, illegal behavior doesn't make it okay.
I agree with you.
It doesn't absolve the other person of liability.
If you know you're on a treadmill, get the fuck off.
That's too easy. It's not always that easy.
I quit things that validated. When you go so far past my morale, I have to give it up. Like I'll give you a case, an example. I was working a job, making great money. I was in the trucking industry, $100,000+ a year. My son was just born. They know this is a great job. I was making great money. They know I needed this. They asked me to come to work the day after my son was born. I quit. I left. Went to work for another company, trucking company, for less money. Sometimes you got to sacrifice the now for the then. I understand dreams are possible. I get it. And I understand someone can sell you on those dreams.
Yeah, what if no other trucking company was available? What if in you saying no to that trucking company boss meant you are out of the trucking industry and you don't even aspire to be in the trucking industry, Dimitri? What if it was the television industry? So your ability to get into the television industry, which you dream of, resides on you doing whatever I say. And if you say no, you are out of the industry entirely. Not a job.
Listen, then I got to go to the next dream. I got to go what plan B was. Because if this don't work, I'm a pivot. I'm not going to ride along this illegal train. And then by the time this no longer works for me and it's bad, I'm going to snitch on the nigga and sue him for $20 million. I'm not doing it.
Coercion is much more insidious than we are allowing in this conversation. And the way that powerful people control people below them when there's a significant power dynamic between the people is very nuanced. It's more complicated than just leave.
But you're missing the idea of how important a choice is in this conversation as well. It's not just the idea of coercion, it's choice. You have a choice. You can die. Did you not watch Black Panther, Torre? Michael B. Jordan said, I'm gonna die before I ever do this. It's a choice. And the thing about it is, everybody always, in the Diddy situation, I was hearing people come at Cassie. She could have left. She could have did this. She could have did that. Ain't nobody talking about this grown man who was a friend for 16 years. Anybody saying he could have left? He could have left too.
Oh, God, it's not about.
I want to bring in another lawyer because there's not enough. I want to bring another lawyer because there's not enough lawyers in this conversation. Hold on, Cheyenne, 1 second. I just want to bring in another lawyer because I need another lawyer in this conversation. Let's bring back in Gerald. Gerald, as I said, the problem legally and perhaps morally is that this horrible choice was offered to an employee, not that the employee said yes to it.
I think the really horrible part is children were violated. And so I understand the complexity of the argument that's happening right now. But the point that he should have left is when his employer asked him to have sexual relations with 15 and 16-year-old girls.
That's my point.
Full stop. And so I understand he might have been out of the music industry, out of the TV, and he was out of that. But from how they have now told the statute of limitations because of these type of cases in certain jurisdictions, he needs to be more concerned about the facts that he put out and whether or not a U.S. attorney is watching this.
1 second, because Gerald, as far as I'm understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that Dixon is alleging that Joe was with 3 underage girls and that he was with women.
Okay, but the issue is under a RICO determination, if he's a part of the handling of that situation, there's an argument that he's a co-conspirator. And so this is exactly what happened in the R. Kelly case, is exactly what they're litigating in the Diddy case. And now you put these facts and file them in court for everyone to see, including the U.S. attorney in that district.
No argument there with the co-conspirator thing, but we're dealing with this civil case that he's filed now. And the point is, what he's saying is, throughout these years, these are the harms I suffered. Like I said, I'm a big believer that this is all about just trying to figure out, can we get a settlement? And I agree with you. Joe, you're seeing minors being harmed. Yeah, you need to be going the other way. I will say this, and many people already know this about me. I was a background singer in the 90s. That's how I started. for Diddy. I've sang background for Diddy. I've sang background for a lot of people, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre. This is an industry that I was in. And this is how I helped pay my way through law school and everything else. And it was, I mean, listen, it's in songs, right? That people in those ages were dealing with underage women, and we all sang along back in the day. So I also want to start, we have to be, it's really hard sometimes because we sometimes put a 2025 lens on things that are wrong, but which were much more commonplace 20 years ago than we all really want to admit. And it's still wrong. It's still a crime, but it is exactly what it is. So my point is being, you see 16, 17-year-old girls in with your boss and he's getting it on with them, probably 15, 20 years. You don't look at yourself and go, I got to quit this job because he likes young girls and I'm not doing that. You see that from the R. Kelly thing. You see that playing out in the industry everywhere. It doesn't make it right, but it is what was happening. But can we just really quickly deal with the civil lawsuit here? Doesn't everybody think this is just a play for money? After years of being promised something, being led on to believe that you were part of the team, that you will get credits.
It's not a.
Yes, that's what I just said earlier. Hold on, Torrey. I just said that earlier, that this is a pay to play. This man wanted something, he didn't get something, and so now he's having a attention tantrum. There is legality when it comes to minors. I already said that disclaimer. When you're talking about a grown ass man who knew that he wanted to play for an exchange for something else, I'm sorry. We got to call it what it is. The judge and jury can do what they want in court. But here on True Talks, adults have to know that if I want something from you and I don't get it, then some folks say, you know what? I'm about to throw in the attention tantrum. And that also is not okay. They need to be held accountable as well.
This is not a temper tantrum. The brother is alleging that he was not paid his wages. He was not paid royalties on songs that he created. He was not credited for songs. So those are three fairly typical.
I'm talking about the sex show. He made me have sex with women while he watched. Okay. If you didn't want to do that as an adult man, you should have pivoted. I'm not talking about the wages because we don't know that.
The wages is why why you're getting to a $250 million
together to make the suit heavier. So he has a bigger case. Thank you. Gerald is seeing it to have a bigger case. Not only did he make me a grown man have sex with women when I'm already fucking, let's keep it real. He also didn't pay me. He also didn't do these things. But guess what? You're trying to build a case. That's what you do in a civil case. You have to build a case. But at the end of the day,
Gerald, go ahead.
You have to have the most salacious details to get them to the bargaining table to settle the issue. And the issue is not the lost wages or anything else. The issue is what was happening with those women and the forced sex acts, which is why we're talking about this and why they're afraid. Well, if you are on the other side, you're afraid it gets to a jury because that's when you get the millions upon millions upon millions. So I think this will probably never see the inside of a courtroom. It'll be settled at a mediation table. But to stay there for 16 years while all this is happening is going to be the hardest part that he's going to have to get over to get them to the settlement.
Dimitri, what do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It'll never make it because the moment it does, if it was ever to make it to court, they're going to ask, why were you here for so long? Why did you choose to watch these things and not?
I think Joe would be scared of it going to a courtroom more than Dixon. Joe does not want this to be a big, long, ongoing story.
And that's why he knows he'll settle. I threw so many details in, he got to settle first. And that's exactly what's going to happen. But the thing about it is he asking for $20 million. Torrey, he ain't asking for no apology. You understand what I'm saying? It's $20 million. So of course he's going to put all that in at once.
But the Cassie situation has set up a playbook. We have to understand what's real. You know, we go in with the details. We tell everybody what everybody doesn't want to know. And then we try to get our settlement check. And then we move on if it's time to move on. Now, if they want to do and file a RICO and bring them in on a RICO and try them or whatever, that doesn't have nothing to do. This is a civil case that he's filing saying, you've been leading me on for years that I'm supposed to get money. I done wrote on all these songs that have been hits. I ain't got no money. All I've been doing is having sex with the girls and you. That's what he's suing for right now. And he is an adult. And whether he gets offered immunity in a subsequent criminal case, that's yet to be seen. What he wants right now is some money. And I don't know if it's just a temper tantrum, Doc. I also, having been in this industry, I have seen many of people write songs, be down for the team, make the beats, do all the things, all for the delayed payment that never, ever comes. And yes, they get to ride on the jet. And yes, they get to go on the trips. And they never get their money until there's a point where they go see a lawyer and they say, hey, listen, let's file the case. Let's run it up. What have you seen? And maybe that'll draw them to the table and you get some money. I don't know if that's a temper tantrum or what we witness is a legal strategy to get us.
Lauren, if he did one incident with Joe, like one forced sex moment with Joe, would that, and then he left, would that be enough for a case?
What you mean if he had sex with a girl?
Against his, the question is so obvious. Like, yes.
Allegedly, why?
Yes, with his employee, Judge, yes. But I want to say something what Judge said that's really important. She said they get to ride in the jets to get the lifestyle, right? You're absolutely right. And you know how many people sign up just to have the lifestyle? And then after years and years and years, after 16 years, right, sis, they go, you know what? I've seen so much by being in the lifestyle. Now I want more. No, but initially you came in with the narrative that the lifestyle was okay. You didn't legal up. You didn't get documentation. You didn't do contracts. You didn't do agreements. And now you're saying, wait a minute, I want money. And you also participated in a lot of these things that were on the jet. You also you participated in things that were behind the curtain. But now that things didn't turn out the way that you started to want them to turn out, not for everybody. Now you want to say, well, you know what? I want 20 million. I want money.
It didn't work out for him because he didn't get paid, right? But like an adult can get trapped in a way. Like if you, it's like the, you know, like Lauren, I've been around the music business, like being on jets and stuff, like it's tiring, right? Like you don't continue to, like, it doesn't continue to be like this exciting, like you get over that, right? And it becomes just like part of your whole life. It becomes part of your work. And you're getting a certain check, you have a mortgage, you have to take care of your kids. You can't just walk away at any second because suddenly your kids are no longer in school. You have to move from that 4,000 square foot place you have. It's not just as easy as say every adult cannot just walk away at any second.
You're being unrealistic. Some people don't have mortgage and kids. Some people are 25, 30 years old in the industry, doing their thing, popping off, no mortgage, no kids. This is their lifestyle, their dream freaking world that they wanted, and they're willing to sell their soul. Let's talk real. Why we're not talking real about this?
Okay, so let's talk really real. Let's talk really real. Let's talk really real. One thing we're not mentioning is in this suit or somewhere connected to it that I read, he also said that allegedly Fat Joe had a hit out on 50 Cent, right?
Yes.
That's somewhere included in this. Now that might be a lie. Right? That might not even be true. But if there's violence connected to it, if part of this is my boss, the person I work for, is capable of paying to take people out, that's another level of fear that ups the ante here that we can't quantify sitting here in the comfort of our own offices and homes and studios. But that's something you're working under. And look, this is something that you cannot really understand. And like I said, I worked in the industry at the time. It was a very real thing. And so I don't know if it's the truth, but that is a part of it that is real. So we don't know. We don't know what was really.
Look, Dimitri, everybody around Diddy, just for one example, knew that he felt that he could kill people and get away with it. Is Joe saying that to people around him? I don't know. He does come from the real street as opposed to some MCs like your favorite Drake. So like if he says, I can get you, you would believe it.
Now, I get you. Let's just say that reigns true. If that man could get me, then he could get me now. So I wouldn't be in court suing him for $20 million.
Hello, Dimitri, I'm yelling at you on purpose.
What are you talking about?
So 15 years
ago, you can give me now.
This is not, Lauren, I can't work with this logic. That's not logic.
Y'all making it seem like a man is trapped in a room with no doorknob. It's a doorknob.
Lauren,
open the door.
But
you learned logic in law school. Why is that not logical?
I'll let you wrap it up because I know we have to move on. I'm just saying that we're also looking at something at a 2025 logic that has taken place over the course of over a decade. I also think we are underestimating the psychological manipulation. And like Teray said, when somebody says they're capable of something, you don't know whether it's true or not, but you don't necessarily want to find out. And now, Dimitri, to your point, Could something potentially still happen now? I'm sure it could. But now at this point, they're valuing, for whatever reason, filing this suit over maybe their personal safety in hopes that maybe bringing light to this will offer them some type of protection or shine the light on Joe so nothing happens. I don't know. Yeah. But regardless, you all, I think we're kind of skipping over the point of it, because I'm not validating this suit. It's not about whether we validate it or not. It's about a cycle that a boss can put an employee in that is harder for some to get out. And I commend everybody who would just walk away. I told y'all before, I don't want women out here sleeping around for a Chanel bag. No, but there are plenty of girls doing it today. And there's plenty of men. Last point, and I got to move on. Is it that we have less sympathy for him because he was a male and was engaging in the sex acts under the direction of an employer potentially than if he was a female? That's a whole nother show. But I think we have to throw that one out there before we leave.
Gerald, hold on. Gerald, I think it's quite dangerous to suggest because you have sued, that means you feel like you are not in danger, right? Using the law, you may turn to the law because you are in danger, right? So I think that's an important place. As a Black person, I don't want to go to the cops. I want to go to you, right? I want to go to Lauren, like, help me out from the legal perspective. But talk to me about this whole situation and how you feel as the conversation coming to an end. The employer offered the person, or actually coerced the person, allegedly, into bad, illegal, immoral acts. Is that on the employer, or is it on the person who accepts it?
It's actually on both. And I know we're looking at this from a 2025 lens, but in the 90s, it was illegal. In the 2000s, it was illegal. And this is the reason why certain attorneys are in this profession, to make sure that it is held illegal. And so I understand from a civil aspect, the employee relationship and the coercion and all the things that were happening, but he should have went to the police. The first thing he should have gone is to the police, because I'm sure if this bears out to be true, he's going to get a call from the FBI or the Department of Homeland Security to validate the potential sex trafficking of underage girls. And so I just think that what we need to leave people with is, if you're in this type of situation, you need to get out of it for your safety and for your security.
Of course, but not going to the police doesn't mean that there wasn't a problem. That doesn't mean that you have, like, that's a dereliction of duty. Like, something is ongoing wrong happening to me, right? You can say, yes, you should call the police, but that I don't doesn't mean, well, it couldn't have been that bad.
No, I'm not saying it couldn't have been that bad. What I'm saying is that you are still now engaging in a situation that becomes far more dangerous. Apart from the person that is allegedly coercing you, you have now potentially committed a federal crime. And so I think that what people need to understand is, even though these acts are going on in the music industry, it was illegal then, it's illegal now. And they need to take the proper precautions to not have themselves engaged in things that could cost them decades in prison.
And stop letting people pay you to play you, and then crying freaking wood. Okay.
But also, we have to understand gang culture, which is what the music business is emulating. And in that culture, you don't go run to the police. In
that culture, you get caught up in a RICO conspiracy, and you end up in prison for decades.
I feel like we're all on a different point. I think we know everything Gerald is saying is true. We know everything Doc is saying is true. We're trying to talk about the web a person can get in, this psychological, coercive gang culture, part of the clique. You don't call police. You do what you do for loyalty. You stay in to be a part of, to get in the music business. It is such a dynamic that we need a whole show to discuss.
For sure.
But yes, I do feel like we're kind of, I mean, Gerald's right. You see a crime, you're in a crime, call the police. You need safety. Yes. The problem is that wasn't happening.
I think that there's a frog boiling in water aspect, a grooming aspect to some of this stuff, right? Where the person is given like one breadcrumb into this sort of life, and then another and another, and next thing you know, you have accepted things that are beyond your boundaries and then even further. And then there's a sort of sunk cost that like, I've gone this far.
Man, Torre? Nah,
yes,
we're not doing that.
From a grown man. Yes, absolutely. Grown men can be raped. I'm sorry to give you breaking news in the middle of
to get out of your victim mindset.
Absolutely.
This man waited 16 years, didn't call the police, and all of a sudden he's not afraid of the gang violence and the threat that can come on his life because he wants $20 million. So what you're saying is he put a $20 million bounty on his head that said, if I get this 20 mil, then I'm okay with it, allowing myself to be threatened my life by the gangs. No. This is a grown man. He should have made a better decision.
No. Yeah. Okay. I'm so glad that Gerald is here already because I want to bring you in on our politicking segment, which fits right into your strike zone as well. The NAACP, Dr. Brian and Gerald are a big part of, just said enough is enough. This time they're talking about Elon Musk's XAI and they're taking him to court. XAI builds massive data centers in urban communities, and these centers are hugely pollutive as far as air and water. And now people are calling it environmental racism. So when billionaires play with tech, and they do so in our backyards, creating environmental racism and damage in our air and our water and our backyards, what do we do? Gerald, how do we fight against these situations? I know the NAACP is suing XAI, alleging environmental racism. But what do we do? How do we deal in these situations?
Well, the first thing you do is to make sure you understand the climate in your community. And this particular community, South Memphis, in a historically Black town called Boxtown, they're facing serious high rates of health issues, and it's related to these massive data centers. So XAI has been operating numerous gas turbines without the necessary permits. And so the residents actually launched an investigation to determine how many turbines were in the community. And they found out that there were more than that was reported to the city and the county. And so after the investigation, the Southern Environmental Law Center, which represents the NAACP, actually found that there were 35 turbines when the permit only allowed 15 turbines. So they've sent a 60-day notice of intent to sue under the Clean Air Act, and they expect to file suit and have a full trial on this. But what people can do is to make sure that they understand what's happening in their community. There are data centers going up all over the country. There are data centers here in Atlanta and in a lot of historically minority communities because of the lack of regulation. But because of the work of the state conference of the NAACP State Conference of Tennessee and the Memphis branch, they are bringing this lawsuit to make sure we clean up the activity that's happened with these data centers.
Lauren, this sort of environmental racism, I'm not sure how we combat it without using the legal system.
We have to. I mean, Gerald's right. We've got to proceed in the way that we can. This is, you know, I talk about it all the time, but this is just a playbook. This is a colonizer's playbook. This is, you know, Black and brown people, least valuable. Let's make our money. The land's cheaper where they are. Let's buy it. And we don't care what happens to their water or anything else. And it's sickening. It's sickening. And I'm glad that, you know, the NAACP has already jumped in and we're in our process because this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning. And I'm fearful. Look, we just talked about, in a recent segment about medical advocacy, right? All of these systemic racist practices are interconnected. And our people always seem to be, we live on defense, right? And it's like we're on the receiving end of all of these short ends of the sticks, these poisonous ends of the stick. And then we've got to somehow fight our way out. And I'll be honest with you, it's exhausting. When I look at that facility and I just go, this is a first water test. This is about to be thousands of these.
Dimitri, look at this facility. It's quite huge. You see multiple trucks parked on the edge here, right? In the near edge. So you can see how gigantic the building is in compared to the size of the trucks, right? This is a really, really huge building that's having a massive impact on the environment all around this neighborhood. How do you feel about this?
You know, to me, I'm not going to surely speak on the size of it, but for me, when I was younger, I always thought shit like this was normal. It was very normal to have a garbage company right around the corner that burns the fucking and allows it to go into the air. It was very normal to have factories and, you know what I'm saying, all of these things. I thought this shit was normal until I actually grew up and realized you don't see this shit in the better parts of our cities. Lincoln Park is a very, wealthy part of Chicago. And then there's Little Village, which is a lot. It's a big difference financially between these places. It's like breathing two different airs. Like this is two different Americas around this bitch. Yep. It wasn't really till I traveled outside of my comfort zone and state to state and country to air is different. You know what I'm saying? And it's all because of things like this. I realize this is less just part of the plan or the way I grew up, and this is policy. It's policy to put things like this in the lower funded communities because they don't mind us being collateral damage. Now, if there was some policy in place as to where you had to pay to get that air purified or that water cleaned or XYZ, I'm pretty sure you see this less. But I always thought it was normal. And I know a bunch of people from where I'm from did too.
Doc, how do we fight against this?
Well, I first want to say that environmental racism contributes to what? Health issues, mental health disparities, and then you don't provide us resources in our communities, right, Judge, right, Gerald? And then you're telling us to figure it out. And then you're saying the full circle of just the internal racism that exists. And they say, we're going to set up shop here because we don't care. You don't have value. The value is in the fact that, like Judge said, the land is cheaper. It costs us less. And so therefore, we're going to put it here. We don't really care. We're not providing you resources either way. And they don't look at us as contributing consumers to anything, whether it's economics or even the political environment. So they don't care what we do. How do we solve it? I think it's just that. I think it's about pushing legislation and suing like NAACP is doing and writing policies that attack and do not allow environmental racism. And we have to be a lot more not so blanket, a lot more very detailed, very to the point in our policies. We can't just say that water has to look and smell like this. We have to actually attack the corporations that are doing it. We have to actually serve them. We have to actually look and say, look, okay, you want to put something like that in our community? How much of that economic contribution is going to go back into the community that you're using to hold up your business, to hold up your wealth? How much of it is going to go back into resources that we need? And we need more data. We need more studies that show what is the impact of having this kind of business, this kind of pollution in our environment. And lastly, after we get the data, okay, let's do a survey to say, we know that the pollution is going to create this kind of disparity, this kind of health issue. Okay, what do we say? Yes, you can do it. You're going to put back millions into our community. Are you also going to provide the health care that's going to be free for the folks that are going to be affected and impacted by what you want to put in our community? You're not even having a conversation with the people there who actually are community folks who are stakeholders in what they do. That is a problem.
Gerald, what do you see as the next steps for this community dealing with this environmental racism?
The next steps are to continue with the lawsuit, to continue to gather the information. And this is the reason why the NAACP has started its new climate justice committees in the units as well as at national to be able to report out on these things and to make sure we take appropriate policy actions and legal actions. But the main thing people need to understand is this is the reason why we have cancer alleys in predominantly African-American communities. It's because of the lack of corporate responsibility. You saw how big that data center was. It looked like several football stadiums or several Walmarts put together. That's the sheer size. But we are committed to making sure we have clean environmental conditions in our community so that no one has to live like this. So again, if you have an issue in your own community, get in touch with your local NAACP, the Climate Justice Committee, and they will take this up and take it up to national. We may be filing suit in a community near you.
Gerald, we got another 15 minutes left. You want to stay for the rest of the show?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's move with Gerald into the main topic about the Black vote being ignored and Black voters trying to break free. You know, for generations, we've heard about politicians saying, you know, we hear you, we see you, we need your vote. But where is the Black community in terms of like getting what they need from the politicians? The Black church has been the heart of the community for so long, not just spiritually, but politically. It's where movements were born. It's where civil rights leaders preached. and where we've gathered to organize, resist, and rebuild. That's why you see Clinton and Obama and everyone sitting and talking with the Black church and getting their approval. But today, politicians in almost every election season say, okay, we're going to come by and shake hands and take pictures and then be out. And that is not enough for a lot of Black voters. Let's take a look at this video and understand a little better.
Keeping voters fired up is not easy while trying to keep yourself warm. It's a cold, rainy day in Milwaukee. Volunteers are knocking on doors, talking to potential voters. They're with the faith-based group Power to the Polls. It's one of many efforts Black churches are making to keep people engaged for the midterms. And it seems they have their work cut out for them.
They really just don't trust a system that has disregarded what they feel for centuries.
The Reverend Greg Lewis is executive director of Power to the Polls. Reverend Lewis says Black voters in town can be highly disconnected.
They asked 25,000 people, do you know there's a mayoral election in your city on April 5th? And 92% didn't know.
92%?
Yes.
In Brooklyn, New York, Bishop Leah Daughtry stays active with the Democratic Party nationally. She says the party can supplement her religious advocacy, but not replace it.
The Democratic Party is a tool. It's a means toward an end. It is not church. It's not designed to be church. They've got their objectives, and I have mine as a faith leader. Sometimes they intersect. Sometimes we're striving for the same things. Sometimes we're not.
Gerald, for sure, the Black church has been critical historically in leading us toward liberation, and we will always hold them in high esteem for that. But nowadays, you feel like they're doing more of like delivering votes without actually making sure we get a return?
You know, and that's one of the big pushbacks in our community on when we have these get out the vote campaigns, is that the politicians only come when it's time to get elected and don't do many policy initiatives that actually help improve the community. And so what I think needs to happen now is politicians need less word salad and more actual action. Less pie in the sky and more policy. And so I think as you see African Americans continue to be the ones that save the democracy, it's time for the policies to save their communities. And I think that it's incumbent upon politicians to understand we need you to actually deliver on what you actually say. That's why you see a lot of people, in the last election, shy away from the Democratic Party and go to Trump, not because of his policies, but because he actually does what he says. And so we need more policymakers to actually do what they say. And so, as a president of the Georgia State Conference, I'm traveling this state all the time, and I'm hearing from individuals in the community, and they're saying the same thing. Mr. Griggs, we see you all the time, but we don't see the politicians. So it's incumbent upon me and others that mobilize the vote to make sure the politicians are in the community 365 days a year and delivering policy that speaks to Black people's needs.
That's true. I think it's dangerous to say Trump does what he says because he lies all the time. And he says misinformed and disinformed things constantly, right?
Listen, I'm with him when he right, though. I'm with him when he right. If he's speaking on my generation, my whole generation feel like when that man says he's going to build a wall start getting built. When that man says he's going to start taking people out.
Your first example failed. He did not build a wall.
Hey, listen, he tried. See, here's the difference. Here's the thing. And let me explain this for the lovers here. I see y'all in the chat. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate y'all for showing up for you. Boy, hey, listen. But let me explain this to my lovers. Let me tell you what this is. A few episodes ago, we had a conversation on love bombing. How is this any different? Every election cycle, they pop up like an ex who changed, and they start speaking words like Black Lives Matter, systematic injustice, all these things. Then when they win, they leave us on red. Then the moment something happens, they don't text us back, they ghost us. That's exactly what this feels like every single time. And if we so quick to talk about love bombing in this generation, and we so quick to talk about relationships, but this is the exact same regard. They're doing the exact same thing. They pop out real loud in public when it can help their campaign, and then behind closed doors, they want to whisper about our policies. And for me, if we're looking at Trump, when Trump said he gonna do this for these people, and it may not be us he's talking about helping, but he told them people he's gonna do it for them, and he did it for them. Our generation was cool with getting stimmies. That's more than the other people did for us. We was cool with just that.
Oh, God.
And the thing about it is, I ain't saying to make it right, Lauren, but they're turning to the best of the worst. That's all I'm saying.
Lauren, for a long time, being Black has meant being Democratic. We vote Democratic. 80-90% Black women at an even higher rate than any demographic in the country votes Democratic. No demographic votes as Democratic as Black women. Part of the problem, because we can criticize the Democratic Party all day, the Republican Party is overtly racist. And I'm like, what alternative do we have? Right? We can be critical of welfare and anything on the left. But then over there is the Klan. You voted the same way as the Klan and the Proud Boys. I'm like, that option is completely off the table. What do you think about the political options we have as far as Democrats who are increasingly disillusioned, but the other party is wearing white hoods?
A couple of things. Politically, it feels like we're stuck between a rock and a hard place. I mean, let's be very honest. It's like we want to promote free thinking. We want to promote people being able to be independent, vote whatever. It's your vote. You vote the way you want. But we look at what happened. I mean, we started thinking free and everybody started talking about either you don't need to vote because it ain't worth it or to vote for Trump. Because all of these conversations, it led us exactly where we are today, where our vote gets split. And the other people, right? And I won't even look, I'm sure there are decent Republicans that don't necessarily agree with what's going on in the Republican Party.
Where are they?
But hold on. Trey, you always make my point before I can make it. But where are they? Right? But where are they?
Why don't
we see them lining the streets trying to take their party back? And in the midst of that, how is it that Black people can be, I don't know, it's almost like we get courted by this bold lie, like it's something sexy about it. We prefer a bold lie instead of bland truth. And I think the Democratic Party has become a bland truth where it doesn't feel strong. It feels like we're weak in the system and we're always reactionary and we're always on defense. And after they pull their play, we're always scrambling around trying to figure out how to get the ball back. And it is not attractive to, as Dimitri said, his generation. And I think that's something that the Democratic Party has to think about and has to deal with. Now, last point I will make at this. One thing about that other side, they don't promote no free thinking. So right now we're trying to promote free thinking against people who promote the exact opposite is you vote the way I tell you to vote. You vote for your whiteness and we will keep you white and on the right side of this equation. Don't go in there looking through policy. Don't go in there reading too much and don't email us no questions or demands. We tell you how to vote and you go out and vote and they do it. And that's what we're up against is a level of ignorance that we can't even figure out how to deconstruct because it is centuries long through the generations. And the ignorance is what ignites that base. Trump said it on TV. If I had to run for office, I'd run as a Republican because what did he say? Like, they're stupid and they'll do anything. I mean, it's right there. He said it.
Doc, last week, one of our viewers said, I'm exhausted by the never-ending conversation outlining everything that's wrong. Where's the solutions? And I feel that opinion. I feel that comment, and we definitely want solutions. So NAACP, you're politically involved. Let's talk about a good action list for Democrats to demand of our leaders, for us to demand of our Democratic leaders before the midterms.
Yeah, and I believe that viewer that put that in the chat about being exhausted is actually a voice for many Dems as well. Mm-hmm. So many Democrats are freaking exhausted with this rhetoric of having to be so free in our policy, so free in the directions that we're going in, that I feel like it has bled to the point where now we're all over the place. I believe that the Democrats need to reshape their leadership, reshape the demand that they are putting on their politicians, their organizations. And I do believe a little bit like the Republicans that Dems need to come to a more nucleus goal of free thinking is fine. But just like an organization that has too many board members, the organization loses its goal. It loses its voting power. It becomes a huge organization with just a lot of opinions and a lot of conversation. We need to get back to what is the nucleus of our fight? What are the few policies that we are going to move through right now? And it's okay to be open thinking. But at some point, somebody within the Democratic Party has to say, all right, y'all, listen, we see all these thoughts flying around. We have to cherry pick some and put them in a damn bowl. Because what's happening is we're looking all over the place. We're looking lost. We're looking like we have no leadership. Our leadership's getting arrested. Our leadership, one leadership is saying they're for this, the other one's saying they're against this. I think Cory Booker was standing in the courtroom for hours and hours and hours for 2 or 3 days he did that, or 48 hours he stood in the courtroom to make his point, which that was okay.
For 24 hours.
Yeah, filibuster.
In the Senate for
24 hours. Okay, and that's okay. But where is our muscle? The Democratic Party has lost we didn't just lose the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court. We've lost our muscle. And I really believe it's because we do want to allow a freedom of thinking, but we can't have a freedom of creating or aligning goals and leadership. We have to have folks and leaders who say, listen, like it or not, we hear y'all, but these are the things we're working on. We have to penetrate something. We can't penetrate everything at one time or nothing gets done. And this is why we're in this situation. Nothing is getting done. Hold on, I'm a Democrat and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the leadership being the way it is. I'm tired of it looking so weak. I'm tired of it having no muscle. I'm tired of the same conversation. I'm tired of the same rhetoric. And I'm tired of folks saying what is on autopilot that they heard the last leader and the last politician say. And I'm also tired of folks getting in position and having these press conferences and not showing no emotion behind it, not showing that they are pissed off about what's going on, not showing that there is an issue that we have to fight. Everybody wants to be so astute and talk about how you articulate the issues and look good. Fuck the look good. We got problems. We're bombing Iran. We got a president in the House that is not for the bigger group of people that are here. Why is nobody pissed off? They just want to stand around for 24 hours in a courtroom, but they ain't getting nothing done. It's not
it's not the courtroom. It's the Senate. It's kind of a
whatever.
big difference.
It's not working.
He's filibustering in the Senate. It's kind of important. But you're right. You're right that it was performative and it didn't actually stop the legislation, and it got him attention, and progressives were like, yay, we're doing something, but we really weren't doing something. It was performative, as was when our good friend who we love, Senator Cory Booker, and my Congressman Hakeem Jeffries were doing a sit-in at the Capitol ahead of the big, beautiful bill hitting the floor. Again, it's performative. There is a value in performative politics, but we need more than that. Let's take a look at the video real quick.
We want to sit here for a good number of hours and engage in conversation. We hope people will come if you're in the area and sit with us, but also that you'll watch and perhaps give your own testimony to your moral urgency that you feel, to maybe your faith traditions or moral traditions that make this and motivate you in this moment to speak out. Maybe you'll share your story of what the threat of this bill does to you and your lives. And that's really the spirit we're coming in, sitting in with, and we want to just start a conversation between the two of us, but maybe you might want to say something as an introduction.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's great to be with you, and happy birthday.
Thank you.
I'm sure you didn't expect last year when thinking about this birthday that I would be your birthday date in this location.
Yes.
But this, of course, is the moment that we find ourselves in.
Gerald, this is performative, but some of politics is performative. That is part of the whole way of communicating with the electorate.
So here's the thing. And I respect both of those gentlemen, and they're trying to be in the spirit of John Lewis, who was a congressman from this district, who had a sit-in on the Senate floor where he was getting in the way to stop the bill from passing. We don't need to have conversation. We need action. And so I think what the Democratic Party is missing right now is the backbone to actually have action. You need to, like my sister said, pick 3 things. I can give you the 3 things. We need to deal with police accountability. We need to deal with voting rights, and we need to deal with economic development in the Black community. You need to speak directly to your base in a clear and clarion call that we are going to do this for you, and we're going to do it right now. And so, you know, as an activist, as somebody from Atlanta, the birthplace of civil rights, when I see stuff like that, that is completely performative. You're sitting on the steps. Nothing's going to happen to you. I'm not interested in having a conversation with you about the things in the big bad bill that's going to cause me problems. I sent you there to stop the big bad bill. That may mean you might need to get arrested. That means you might need to filibuster. That means you might need to stop being accommodationist and stop allowing things to happen. We sent you there to do a job. Black people sent you there. 2018, 2020, 2021, 2022, you asked Georgia to save the democracy, and we got nothing out of it. And so now it's time for Democrats to understand that Black people are talking, and they're talking very loudly. Do something. Stop being scared. Stop making excuses. Stop using word salad. You know, I have a JD. Half the time, I don't know what y'all are saying. So imagine what people who are working 9-to-5 jobs are thinking about this word salad. Stop it.
Lauren,
simple.
Same question that I asked. Lauren, same question that I asked them.
Be an elected official, not a celebrity. Stop that shit.
What are the big ideas that you want to see the Democratic Party wrestling with as we move into the midterms? For me, if you're not talking about mass incarceration, I don't know what you're talking about. But please.
We have so many. I mean, Gerald has outlined, so many of the great ones, 3 of the great ones. You have as well. Can I just use my time to echo what Gerald just said? Because that word salad hit me. And when he talked about having this JD, and so, when I tell you the legal eagle mumbo jumbo, I mean, when he hit it, hit me in my spirit. Somehow the Democratic Party, because honestly, Teray, it goes to your point. It doesn't matter what they say the issues are if no one's listening to them and no one follows suit. Because at this point, what it feels like is nobody's really ready to die for it. Like that's really what it was back in the day. We don't feel that energy that anybody is getting into that kind of good trouble that, our elected officials used to get into years ago and ready to die for this. And I'm not trying to tear down any official, but this is where we are. And this is why people aren't tapped in. So you can add mass incarceration to the list. You can add healthcare to the list. You can add, but nobody's going to listen if they don't feel like we are about it. Okay. I mean, at the end of the day, that's it.
I mean, Gerald, I want you to go over your points again, but she makes a great point, and you make a great point that we have seen politicians who recently more so, who seem plain spoken, who seem direct, who seem to be telling you the truth. And Donald Trump seems to be telling his people, he is not, but he seems that way. Bernie Sanders seemed to be telling the truth, right? So we do, to your point, we do resonate with politicians who seem to be telling the truth.
Yes, you have to be that type of person that they would want to be around if they were not talking about politics. Be simple, be plain, be direct. Police accountability, voting rights, economic development in the Black community, and of course, healthcare. If you talk about those things, about things that you can do right now, not a big, beautiful plan for 20 years from now, what you can do right now with the power that you have. The Democrats always act like they're powerless, but we saw the Republican Party during Obama block everything. So the minority party can block, but you have to be able to block. And you have to stop the word salad. Again, as a person who has done years of higher education, I don't understand what they're saying. Be simple, be plain, be direct. Say you're going to fight on those 3 things: police accountability, voting rights, economic development, healthcare. Make sure that it's digestible at a 6th grade level and the people will get behind you.
All right, Doc and then Dimitri, what are the Democrats and what do we need to tell the Democrats to do?
Tell them to stop trying to be celebrities. You sitting and talking. You sitting and chatting. You could have just added a Jack and Coke and a cigar. For all I care, talking about your birthday. You're not a celebrity. You are an elected official to serve the people who pay taxes and voted for you and put you in office. If you want to be a celebrity, go get on a fucking TV show. Go create an album, get in the entertainment business. To a judge, and Gerald said, when you are there to serve people, you are on the front line. That comes with the unspoken oath that says, I'm willing to give everything I got. That comes with the risk of understanding that you will be the first one hit before the people you're serving that are behind you are on the side of you. And if you don't have that type of heart posture, you are in the wrong field. You are in the wrong industry of service. We don't need people who are, we got enough celebrities. Those people can contribute to campaigns. Those people can help with voter registration, can help with getting folks to be mobilized. We need you to be on the front line. We need you to be putting in action. We need you to make sure that you're speaking loud and clear. We need you to be a representation of the people you're serving. And those people happen to be fed up, pissed off, and despaired. And you don't look fed up, pissed off, or despaired. You look like you're having a damn good time. And the people you're serving are hurting, demising, and
I'm not sure that Cory Booker looks like he's having a damn good time, but go ahead, Dimitri.
You know, I'm gonna have to agree. The thing about it is, for me, my generation, we're super direct, right? So in any regard, when you're seeking or voting or you're paying for anything, when you go to court, you hire a lawyer, an attorney, to fight for you, and to phrase things you may not be able to say, to get this message across, right? This is why you go to the dentist, because they have a higher knowledge of your teeth. This is why so when we look at public officials, you're in place to have conversations in rooms my voice cannot reach.
Come on.
To a degree with words. So if you sitting on the front steps outside, we could do that. I could have did that. That's Instagram engagement right there. You can't fix the problem from the parking lot.
But Touré said that was protesting. Touré said that was protesting, but I'm gonna let you continue. I digress.
Listen, I could shoot that up. We need you in the building doing the work.
Well, here's one thing, Dimitri, is that when if you sat on those steps, you might get arrested. But even if you didn't, no cameras would come. When these two brothers sit on the steps and make their point, as if they were standing in the building, no cameras would be there either. But them doing something out of the ordinary, sitting on the steps like this, doing a sit-in, it's performative, but it does bring the cameras. And now we are listening to what they're saying.
It's not a sit-in, and they're not the first to do this. Cori Bush did this, but John Lewis did this in the Senate when he was fighting against the gun violence.
Cory Booker did a filibuster too.
So again, I respect those two brothers, but they didn't listen to their mentor. If you're going to get in good trouble, there has to be the fear of an arrest. Yes, if Dimitri sits on those steps now because there are fences and everything around it, he'd probably get arrested. But if they took the well of the U.S. Senate and did not move without giving a filibuster, they will be arrested, and every camera in America will be trained on them to get their message out. We have to understand it's not about performative. It's about a call to action that leads to actual change. So I respect them, but they need to understand, if you're going to be an activist, understand what activism really looks like. There has to be a threat of something that's going to happen to you. So again, the three things that we need as an African-American community, the same three things that we sent the president and the Senate and the House. The George Floyd Justice Policing Bill, which is police accountability, was the reason why we had the largest protest in the history of America. We need to make sure we protect our voting rights. That is the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And we need economic investment in the African-American community. You know that R word everybody's afraid to say, reparations. If you start saying that, the young people will get behind you, the middle-aged generation will get behind you, and the older generation will see the fire that they saw in their generation.
Can I say one more thing to my generation? My generation, just like y'all brothers sat here and said, if it was me who go sit on them steps, you get arrested, right? But there's power and knowledge to all the people we need to inspire that are under me. They just see two brothers sitting on steps.
Come on, man.
I don't know if y'all
know who those two brothers are, though. But they should know who those, if they don't know who those two brothers are, that's on them. We have a senator and a mayor.
But you're missing the bigger picture.
We have young leaders in here that need to hear Dimitri's voice. Let him speak for the young.
The bigger picture.
John Ray.
The bigger picture is the idea that you have to teach while doing these things. If you go sit on some steps, I get you. You can bring people outside, I understand. But the generation we need to inspire, just see two brothers sitting on steps. If I see a man in there, if I see a politician getting arrested, now I'm more curious. What is this brother fighting for, and how can I get behind it? But if I see two brothers sitting on steps, I don't know they can't be there. All I hear is somebody say, this is what we doing for our birthday. It don't look like a struggle. So I won't believe it's a struggle, and it's not something I'll get behind. Tori, I'm just telling you the way the ones under me thinking. That's all I'm saying.
I understand and appreciate everyone's opinions. I think this has been a fantastic conversation. I think there's a lot that we can criticize about the Democratic Party. And if folks are fed up with the Democratic Party, I share your feeling. You are absolutely right to feel that way. Don't just agree with me. Don't just agree with Dimitri. Organize, question, show up, hold the candidates accountable. Make sure that they are doing what it is that you want. Democracy isn't just voting once every 4 years or every year, every Tuesday, every November, Dimitri. We vote every November, not just every 4 years. But we can demand policy throughout the rest of the term. Show up, don't pander, but make them feel like they have to live up to what they promised us. And you can help us too. Share this episode, have this conversation with your group chat, your church, your barbershop, your block, because real power isn't just in voting. It's in the follow-up. It's in staying on top of them throughout their term in office. This time, let's not just be voters. Let's be watchdogs, right? And trust, we at Truth Talks will be helping hold their feet to the fire, and we'll be keeping the receipts and make sure that they are living up to their promise to us. So stick with us for that. That's all we have for tonight. Like, comment, and subscribe on our YouTube channel at Truth Talks-Live. Watch us simulcasting right here on the Black Star Network after Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support Black media at Cash App at Truth Talks Live. Visit truthtalkslive.com to advertise or become a VIP member. We are here every weeknight at 8 p.m. EST. That's the East Coast, and 8 p.m. PST. That's the West Coast for you, Cheyenne. You can also support us by advertising on Truth Talks. We reach over 10 million people through all our social platforms. So if you want to reach a huge, engaged Black audience who loves Dr. Bryant, every single one of them love Dr. Bryant, then come advertise with us. Small businesses and influencers, we got room for you too. Partner with us by visiting truthtalkslive.com. We want to thank our supporters, Juanita Motti, Benjamin Gomes, and Kyla Carr for their weekly cash support for the truth. Thank you so much. If you want to be in our credits, hit that Cash App and show your love. We will be here for you, with you, arguing with each other, and still love each other somehow every night at 8 p.m. Eastern and PST Pacific. We will see you tomorrow.